Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lambtown here with Mark Lym. How you going, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. We've just been chatting off air. I feel like this is, second time meeting, which is...
Yeah, it is.
Amazing. Got on like best pals, I reckon.
Pretty good.
Mark, you're an orthopaedic surgeon.
Or trainee.
Trainee?
Trying to become one. Not on the official program yet, so I'm what we call an unaccredited registrar. So doing the job of a trainee, trying to get onto the program, and that training program is like 5 years long. So still got at least another 6 years to go.
Amazing.
Good times.
All this hard work as well, and he's becoming a business owner as well, which is pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah, in my ample spare time, trying to start a company is not easy. Far out, man. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, it's insane, and we live in Australia where I think a lot of the percentage of businesses are small businesses. Fewer than 20 employees.
Yeah.
Learned that from business management in high school.
Yep. I have no employees. It's I have one guy's trying to keep me in line to actually get it done, and then that's it.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, tell us a bit about yourself, and thank you for your time. I'm keen to unpack your story because I feel like, you've ventured into this medical field, and it seems like you're kicking goals and doing something that you love from our chat before. And now you're trying to delve into the clothing and apparel range, and it's just like, how much time have you got in your hand, you know?
Yeah. Well, not a whole lot of time. I guess if we talk about, so my job, I'm a orthopaedic registrar, so basically fix broken bones and do joint replacements and stuff like that. I'm currently working in a regional hospital, so Bendigo Hospital. It's my 7th year as a doctor, which still feels very strange to say when people ask me what I do. But yeah, I love my job. I'm a glorified mechanic, or, it's like putting together IKEA furniture, except the stakes are a little higher sometimes. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I can't believe how casually you just said putting together furniture.
Yeah, people ask me, what's your day-to-day life? What do you use? I'm like, well, I use a drill, a saw, a screwdriver, plates and screws, and just with fancy gloves. So that's pretty much it, man. Yeah.
Amazing. Can you talk to us a bit about yourself in terms of your upbringing and where you've come from, and why the medical route?
Yeah, so born and raised here in Melbourne. Parents moved here probably about 45 odd years ago. Raised by a single mum, essentially. Shout out to my mum. Absolute champ of a woman. She didn't ever really pressure me to become a doctor. She gave me every single opportunity that she could within the limits of our, of what we had at the time. Made sure that I stayed in a good school despite a lot of the difficulties that we had. And, when I finished year 12, I didn't have the most stellar ATAR. I'd say it's, it's good by normal standards. It's a fail by Asian standards, which Mum didn't express abject disappointment, but she knew that I was capable of more, which was why she was disappointed for me. But still managed to get into biomed at Monash, did that for 3 years, managed to get into postgrad med on the first go by basically fluking my GAMSAT. And then I think during the interview process, they thought that my mumbo jumbo responses were good enough to say, this guy, he can, we'll let him do it. He can go and pass. There you go. And so, and then did that for 4 years, and 7 years later after finishing that, here we are. And somehow fell into this specialty, which I really love. Didn't want to do it from the get-go. Never thought I would do it. It's a very stereotyped specialty, which is quite amusing. But I like to say that I don't fit the typical typical stereotype of that specialty. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that you talk about the stereotype and how you but it was a fail by Asian standards.
Yeah, exactly.
I can definitely relate on that level, I think.
Yeah.
We always grow up with the Asian parents, even if we are Australian-born Chinese, of the expectation. It's like, go and do your absolute best, and 95 plus and all those sorts of things is the standard. And it's amazing you talk about that. It's also lighting me up that you actually really wanted to fit this narrative that might necessarily be a stereotype at the moment, be a doctor, dentist, or lawyer.
A little bit. I think my family, we had a lot of medical people, so that's just on my mum's side. So in my direct family, I'm the only doctor. My brother, who is actually wildly more successful than me, works for Ladbrokes, and he is just like he's really entrepreneurial. He's really business minded, and he's got the gift of the gab. You know, he's got the silver tongue. He could, as my stepmom would say, he could sell ice to Eskimos. That's how good he was, or good he is, really. But my mum basically told me that, you know, I don't care what you do with your life in terms of a career. You want to be a garbage man? Be a garbage man. But I will push you to get the grade so that you can choose what you want to do, and then you can be the best garbage man in the world. As long as you achieve that, that's all I want. So, you know, she pushed me for the right reasons, not to fit a mold that despite all of my cousins fit. So 24 cousins, about 16 doctors.
Which is amazing record.
It's wild. But like some of them shouldn't be doctors, right? Like they just did it because two of our uncles were really successful and they were doctors. And so everyone was like, this is what we have to be because, you know, they've set the standard. So this is the standard, got to achieve it. And I never fit that standard. I never fit that mold. I was too wild as a kid, too hyperactive, bouncing off the walls, no attention span at all, still don't have one. And mum knew that, but she wanted me to be successful in life. And most importantly, despite all the Asian stereotypes, she wanted me to actually be happy in life. And she reminds me of that every day. So yeah, I'm very blessed in that manner. I've got the best mum in the world, despite her getting on my nerves some of the time. You know, as old parents. Yeah.
It's always in parents, I'll say, maybe Asian parents in our circumstance here. It's always in their best interest for us to do well, and all they want us to do is be happy. So I always reflect and am really appreciative of my parents and them pushing me, but also within my own confined walls and letting me sort of venture out and adventure. Like, I really, really appreciate that. Sometimes it's not the case, and I'm very privileged to have had that sort of upbringing. It's amazing to hear that your mum, she sounds like such a beautiful woman.
Oh, yeah.
And pushed you in the ways that you might have needed to be, but also let you explore and find something that suited you. And it happened to be in the medical field.
Yeah.
Had you always been interested in that field, I guess?
Well, as mum said, I always like to help people who would hurt themselves. So like, you know, anytime a kid at school grazed their knee, apparently I was always the first one to sort of try and stick a Band-Aid on it, even if it was covered in sand and gravel and all that crap. And then that would carry over to adults. But I think the main thing that attracted to me to the specialty is I love problem solving and I love puzzles. Or, you know, I like to help people, as well as generic as an answer as that is. And a lot of people who want to get into med ask me when it comes to the interviews, when the question of why do you want to be a doctor comes up, the most important thing is to be honest. And if your answer is generic and it is, I want to help people, who cares? Like, that is my truthful, honest answer. I love it. That is, you can help people in multiple ways. For me, the way that I like to help people is, I think, in the best way that I can, is by, you know, being a doctor that can make some decisions to help benefit them in the long run. And, you know, that's something I've had the privilege of doing for the last 7 years. Like, it's crazy. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. And yeah, you talk about how you were bouncing off the walls as a kid and quite energetic and yeah, just a pretty much ball of energy.
Oh yeah.
What was growing up like with mum and what were the sort of hobbies and interests that you sort of were picking and choosing from, and what was the sort of career pathway looking like?
Oh, so no real career pathway up until maybe like year 10, 11. But
as it all starts.
Exactly right. You know, you get career day and you do your job placement, all that crap. But for me, like, you know, growing up very hyperactive, so played a lot of sport. Did a lot of swimming, played badminton from a young age, you know, like all Asian kids, but still
swimming in the badminton.
Oh yeah, swimming, badminton, but also played a lot of footy, played basketball, was never really good at, you know, never really elite level for any of them, but had enough coordination to play for school every now and then. And then did a bit of breakdancing in high school, not good, not well, but, you know,
so niche.
Tried, so niche. And I had a
B-boy
name.
How do you get into that? Like,
oh man, like
some sort of gate kept like.
I watched, was it Step Up? Yeah, I watched, no, it was, what's the other one? It wasn't Step Up. It was, You Got Served. So I watched You Got Served, and like this is showing my age, right? This is showing how old I am. But like, I watched You Got Served, and I think I was like year 8 or year 9 at the time. I was like, man, these guys are dope. And obviously I never achieved that, but I tried for like a little while. It's a nice party trick. And then in terms of getting into sort of how I went from being this ball of energy and this ants in your pants kind of kid. Mum, like obviously mum exposed me to a lot of the, advanced mathematics and advanced English and stuff like that. So I used to love to read. So English was never a problem for me. Maths was, just because I got really bored really quickly. And if I found it too easy, I was never stimulated. So mum got me into Kumon. Shout out Kumon. Classic things, right? Classic
I can't
Asian.
get over their logo. Just the sad face.
They didn't have that when I did Kumon.
Oh, really?
Again, showing my age, but like when I started Kumon, I can't remember the logo, but it wasn't that sad face. And then when I saw they had the sad frowny face of the logo, I thought, oh my God.
We need a marketing course in there.
I was like, that was me. Like, that was me as a kid trying to do Kumon. So mum would wake me up at 6 o'clock in the morning before school to do my Kumon workbooks. And that was like my childhood. So like I clocked Kumon really quick. So like by the time I was 10, I was doing like calculus. But then the problem was when I needed it in high school, I'd forgotten and I didn't care. And so like I stuffed around so much in high school.
The exponential growth and it sort of it off.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it was a bit of a waste on mum's effort at the time. I peaked way too early and then just sort of crashed and burned in high school.
That's the thing. Hey, like you go through your life and then you start peaking in high school and you think like this ATAR is like it.
Yeah, like it's everything at the time, because you think about we still do this as adults. Like every time we set ourselves a goal or we have this expectation that's either placed on us by ourselves or our parents or whoever is most significant in our lives, that becomes in a sense a bit of tunnel vision, be all and end all. And when you don't achieve it, especially when you're used to achieving things, it can really weigh you down. And I've battled myself with my own mental health problems, and I set myself very unreasonable expectations. My job career path is filled with disappointment, unfortunately, where, we deal with that on a daily basis. There are problems that we can't solve, people we can't help, things we can't fix. And that in itself can be really heartbreaking. And I thought it would get better from when I was an intern to when where I am now. And I'll tell you what, it still hits just as hard, right? But sorry, I'm getting off topic, but yeah. Like it's those expectations that we set, and so
I can imagine you're freshly graduated and doing your internships, and you're like, I can solve all these problems, I can be the difference. And then you're just faced with this sort of reality that sometimes you can't really help certain situations, which is like so disappointing. And how did you sort of deal with that or cope with those sorts of?
Well, the harsh reality of being an intern and a junior doctor is that you're a paper monkey for a long time. So you're just a jobs monkey. So you do the jobs that need to be done for the patients on the ward. So that can be simple things like writing up medications, fluids, making new referrals to other teams, because when people come in, sometimes they might not have just one problem. They've got multiple things. There'll be one team looking after the main problem at the time, but then they'll have other things that need to get sorted. So you spend most of your day just trying to get through all of these patients and all of their jobs that need to get done. And then sometimes on the odd occasion you get someone who's very sick. And I still remember the name, the face, and all the family members of the first patient I had that died. And he was a beautiful man, and his family were just as beautiful. And that is a name and an experience that I will take with me to the day that until the day I die. And it was a real privilege to be a part of it, but it teaches you so much in terms of you can't always solve the problem. And it's what you take away from that experience and how it molds you as you go forward in our career, that can make you better. And that's a lesson I learned, and I sort of try and permeate that mentality to all my patients, when I see them. Because God, when they come in, everyone's like, they're all very, really vulnerable, unfamiliar environment. You've got a really bad problem that's making you unwell. I think sometimes they just get overwhelmed and really scared, especially kids or very elderly people. So they're really fragile. And so I think because I'm pretty laid back normally and I talk very casually, when I meet them, I do everything possible to make them comfortable and make them comfortable in my presence, because I'm a stranger. They don't know me from a bar of soap. And if they can feel that from me, and then I think it makes their experience and throughout the whole duration of their admission, it can make it that much better. So, yeah.
100%. It's about that empathy as well. You talk about them being in a vulnerable position. Of course, they're watching a loved one really go through it, which is horrifying sometimes.
Well, I mean, I've been on the other side of the curtain before with my dad. So my dad passed away very suddenly, almost 3 years ago now, coming up 3 years in March. And so he had his share of medical problems all leading up to it. So I knew from my personal experiences beforehand that, like, you know, what it was like. So it really keeps you grounded, and it, you know, helps you relate to the patients and their family members. So yeah. You know.
Yeah. You talk about taking everything away from one experience and trying to project it into a better experience for the next. Do you find that that's something that you had to learn very quickly, or?
I don't know. I think it's all about perspective and context. There are some lessons that you don't realize were lessons until much later on, because then it'll happen and then you'll be like, okay, that happened, and you move on with your day, and then something similar will occur, and you'll realize that the way you dealt with it, the only reason why you dealt with it in such a manner that was better was because you've had the previous experience from it, and then you'll really appreciate it at the time. And then some of them, when you make an error in our field, if you make an error that has an adverse patient outcome, those are the lessons you learn real quick and you never forget. And anyone who thinks they'll never make a mistake, absolutely wrong. We are human. We make mistakes. You have to accept it, and you have to learn from it. You can't just, accept it and then be like, all right, cool, fine, whatever. We have to accept it, learn from it, develop, and then that's what helps us be better in our field, I suppose. Yeah.
It's that accountability as well.
Absolutely.
To face those mistakes and errors that we do come across. And we were talking off air about how you teach your students and how you give them the benefit of the doubt of, hey, by the way, like, I want you to give it this best crack and best shot.
Yeah.
And if you make a mistake, learn from it.
Yeah.
Or give it your best shot. So
yeah.
Talk to us a bit about that. Like, how did you get, or because you've been in the field for such a long time, you'd be seeing lots of patients coming, or not patients, sorry, interns or people doing placements coming through. What's that outlook like, and what's it like being a mentor in the field?
Well, they're all really scared. It's an unfamiliar environment again, and med students, I feel, they can feel like they're the bottom of the barrel in terms of priorities. They don't want to be in the way. You spend a lot of your med school placement time just not wanting to be in the way. You don't want to de-sterilize a surgical field. You don't want to get in the way of the busy nurses who are already dealing with, a crazy patient or a demented patient or someone who's in a lot of pain. They're trying to deal with 4 people at once, and you're just like, oh, can I just come in and examine this patient? Do you mind if I talk to them? No one likes that person, right? And so you don't want to offend. And so they're really lost and they're really scared. And so if I have time, and I try and make time, I will do my best to be like, look, I'm going to go see this patient. I'm going to go do this in the emergency department, or I'm going to, you want to come and operate with me? Absolutely. Like, let's go, right? And even simple procedural stuff. So a good one about learning from mistakes is cannulas. So where we have to put a needle into the arm. That is a skill that takes a lot of practice. And especially with med students and like junior doctors, they don't really get to practice that much on people. You can do all the simulations you want, but it's not the same as when you have to stick it into a person. Like the first time I had to do a patient, my hands were shaking so much. I was like Michael J. Fox, just like, oh my God, I'm going to kill this person. But I've done so many since then, and I teach the students and the junior doctors all my tricks, and I tell them this is what you got to do. If it's a hard one, you just got to practice, and you'll be better each time. If you make the mistake, you apologize to the patient, ask them if they're happy for you to do it again, and if they are, learn from your mistake and get it right the next time. And it works more often than not.
100%. I mean, we're still human at the end of the day. Mark, you sound like such an empathetic person who knows. He's just read about who sort of knows like the roots and sort of where you've come from. Especially in the medical field, like it's such a high intensity situation and environment, and I can imagine like how stressful it would be for those people doing placement. What is your sort of outlook on how the workplace has sort of evolved in terms of like the types of people that are coming through? Like, are they these high achievers who maybe just got the 99.95 ATAR, or are they people who genuinely want to help? What's it sort of been like in terms of your view and your experience?
So I think because a lot of universities are embracing the postgraduate model, I think that's a really good idea, because it means that you get people who finish high school, do something else beforehand, whether it's another degree or whether it's a degree, then they start working, whatever it is, they get to learn a lot and they develop as people. When you finish school and you're 18-year-olds, you don't know anything. And if you think you know everything, you're wrong. And I'll tell you that because I'm 31 and I still am learning things every day. And you got to accept that, and that's how you grow. But as more postgrad students come through, you realize that they're a little bit more worldly. They've got a little bit more world experience and real life experience. And so you don't have as much of the real old school type A personality where I'm the best, I'm going to be number one, and like those still come through, and you have to be like that to do well in our field. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not disparaging that type of person. Like, they are amazing and incredible, and I kind of wish I was like that, but I'm just too lazy to be like that, right? But I think that the best part is that you can be really balanced these days, because there's such a push for mental health. I think that there still needs to be more advocacy for good mental health, especially in our work field or area of work. And I think the statistic is like on average it's 2 in 100 doctors will commit suicide, and something along those lines. I don't know if that number's changed, but you always hear of those stories, and it's always someone, it might not be the person directly connected to you, but it might be the next one. And that's not just doctors, that's nurses as well. They see some horrible things. A nursing friend of mine committed suicide in my second year as a doctor. That was really hard, but it teaches you a lot about the importance of mental health. And that's the benefit, I think, of these postgrad students that are coming through. They've had the benefit of that real life experience. They've learned a little bit of that self-care, and I'll tell all the students as often as I can, I'll tell people as often as I can, junior doctors, whatever, you've got to look after yourself. I will admit I'm pretty bad at taking my own advice. I don't do it a lot, and I've learned the hard way, and I don't want people to learn the hard way. So, yeah.
What does good mental health look like in the workforce for you?
Ooh, I think, look, it's hard. Everyone has different things that help them reset and helps them settle. I won't speak on behalf of others, but I'll speak on behalf of myself. When I used to work at a very busy trauma centre, I worked there for about 4 years. There were some days I was doing 14 to 16 hours of work a day, and there were some periods I was working 15 to 20 days in a row, non-stop, and it takes a toll. You put it to the back of your mind, but then when you get to the end of that stretch or the end of that really long day, it hits hard, and you just sort of slump at home and you're like, what am I doing with my life? And you compound that with some of the horrors that you see, especially at those trauma centres. And depending on the rotation that you do, you'll see some pretty violent things and pretty tragic things, and you see a lot of young people your age. And I didn't really know how to look after myself. I thought I did. I thought, I'll lie in bed, eat some Maccas, watch some TV and some Netflix. It'll be fine. It's actually not, because for me, I'd still be exhausted when I went back to work. I was neglecting myself. I was neglecting my relationship at the time. I was neglecting my health, my true health. And these days, my brand of mental health is I'll go for a drive. I love driving. I'll go for a nice long drive. I'll go for a walk.
Whip.
It's an irresponsible whip, but I'll go for a drive. I'll go for the benefit of living regionally at the moment. I can go for really nice long walks. Some nights it'll be late, and I'll look up, and I did this when I was in Gippsland last year. There's really little light pollution, so I think it was like 11 o'clock one night. I drove 45 minutes to a nearby Outlook, and I just basically stayed there for about an hour and just stared at the stars. And, people wouldn't expect that of someone who looks like me, but I love that stuff. That actually brings me a lot of peace. And you got to find something that brings you peace in order to really get that hard reset. And there are going to be other ways you can do that too. For me, going to the gym is a big thing, keeps me very level. helps get that little ball of anger out, and you just sort of feel, okay, I've exerted myself for that, and I feel much better. Obviously, if you don't hit your numbers for the day, I'm sorry, Matt. I'm very sorry. Matt's my coach. Crundle crew.
Yes, shout out.
Yeah, but, it's still very therapeutic. So you've got to find whatever it is that helps you, and you've got to cling on to those, because those will keep you sane. Yeah.
100%. And yeah, you talk about aspects like exerting yourself and also nature as well. I think nature is just like one of the, it's what created us, like exactly. It's where we've come from. It's what we've been hardwired as cavemen to be surrounded by, you got to know your roots, and too often and too many times we're sort of sitting in front of a computer or going on TikTok and like scrolling through for like dopamine release, and it's like that's not where you get your peace and happiness from. It's more like put yourself outside, get outside and surround yourself, fresh air, trees, the sky, animals and everything.
I mean, like I burn time on TikTok or Insta, like scrolling through TikTok or Insta. Like I can start and then I look up and 45 minutes is gone, and I would have felt like I've done nothing, and I'm still tired and I'm still exhausted and I'm still stressed.
Yeah.
But the times that I force myself to get out, man, it's so much better.
Yeah, 100%. And I sort of, this is what I found recently. Like I hop on my phone and then all of a sudden like I'm really stimulated, and then as soon as I put it and turn it off and put it to the side, it's just like I'm back to where I used to be, which is, I don't know whether that's placebo or not, but that's what I've been finding. And instead it's just like go outside, go have a walk.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about those apps. So you're right, you get a little dopamine release every time you, the thing about TikTok is like every time you flick, you're getting a new set of dopamine. So it's like, and it's that muscle memory, it's that association. So if I make that movement with my thumb, I'm going to get the next hit. And it's not a big one, but it's small. And obviously every video that you see is not going to be, one that you like, but you're constantly seeking that next one that you want and the next thing that's going to give you that little chuckle, right? And yeah, like you said, you burn time, and time sort of stands still in that moment. But because your time is standing still, it doesn't mean that the clock has stopped. And so before you know it, all that time's gone, and you're still tired. You're still not reset. So yeah.
Amazing. I want to go back to your upbringing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
Oh my God, it's like spanned out.
We're just doing
literally. We, I guess, discussed like you're pretty much the Asian prodigy. Do you know, it's like you've gone and
oh, nah, man.
done the high ATAR.
Nah, the postgrad route is not the prodigy route. That's like the redemption arc, right? Because the prodigy route is you get the 99.95 ATAR, and then you go straight into undergrad. You get your face in the papers. You're shaking hands with Dan Andrews. Big thumbs up, and then that's the prodigy route, right? That's you get your name in the papers. Like,
amazing. Yeah. The one thing that was missing, aside from the swimming and the badminton and the good grades and everything, music.
Oh yeah.
What was that all like, and did it ever sort of deviate your career trajectory at all?
So
I'm going to change the cameras as well.
Oh yeah, cool.
Keep going.
So Mum got me to learn piano from a very young age. I think it started when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and again, attention span plays a big role in all of it. So it was really hard for me to practice and learn the pieces that I had to, just because I didn't care enough. Like, just did not care. So. But I finished grade. I went all the way through to grade 8 piano, and then Mum didn't even bother asking me to LMAs or AMAs and diploma, because she knew that would be like pulling teeth, like definitely not worth it. But during that time, my school had a pretty epic sort of setup, like a little music academy, and they had the latest iMacs with all these keyboards and the Logic program on like the Apple Logic program.
That.
Yeah, man. And so because you learn piano, like I learned piano. I never officially did theory, but I was really good at improvising, and I really enjoyed it. And I can do this thing where I can listen to a song a couple times, like on the radio, like a lot of Asians who do theory and stuff, like you can listen to it, and then once you figure out the chords, all songs have got the basic same chords, and you can play it. But then you start creating your own stuff. And so I started making music for a while, and dabbled my hand in rap and R&B, and sounded like trash.
Maybe you're your worst critic.
All the time.
Did it ever strike you that you would take that route, or is it more like something that I'm going to keep this to the side.
Yeah. It was always I enjoy it a lot. I'm really passionate about music. Music plays a big role in my life just because I love listening to a lot of genres. But I was never one of those people who thought, oh, if I don't make it as an artist, I'm dead in the water. Like, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I understood my limitations, and, you know, it's still very nice to be able to play piano, albeit quite mediocrely. But it's something that just, again, it actually kind of brings me peace to just randomly play some mashy crap on the piano every now and then. But yeah, no more music production. No one wants to hear that. No.
I love that. Talk to us more about your mum and sort of the relationship that you two have fostered. I can imagine it's quite a tight-knit one.
Yeah. So, like I said, raised by a single mum. Parents divorced when I was quite young, and it was a pretty tumultuous period. So there was a sort of a decade-long period of a lot of bad things happened between my parents and our family. No domestic violence or anything like that, never. It was never a problem. But it was just a very turmoil-filled time of everyone's life. But my mum, through all of that and my childhood, still managed to basically rule with an iron fist. So, she kept me in line despite me being the hyperactive, chaotic child that I was. And she still kept saying she had a lot of grief to deal with at the time. Her own family was, not really that supportive. And yet she still managed to raise me and my brother to be, the men that we are now. She managed to keep a hold of herself as a person as well, despite all of the difficulty. And, she, again, provided us and still provides us with an insane amount of support and love. Like, it's unrivaled. And my mantra is always, and like I told you off air, but it's like, if I can be half the parent that my mum was, I will most likely be the best dad in the world, simply because, like, we had our differences. We used to have pretty bad fights because I was, every teenager, moody, all that stuff, listened to a lot of emo punk rock, all that stuff, and hated life. Why is my life so hard? Yada, yada. But, mum just showered me with love and support, and she still does. And, she's an inspiration. She is my hero for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I love that so much. Shout out to your mum. It sounds like a beautiful relationship.
Shout out to Jackie Lym.
Jackie Lym, love it.
Yeah.
I hope she hears that.
I'll send her. Yeah, we'll send her a soundbite.
I might make the clip out of that. And then
she's gonna cry.
Yeah. And rightfully so. Like, that is like such a beautiful way to phrase your mum, and she just sounds like an absolute rock to you. And I can imagine, she's just one of those people that you probably think to when you've had a rough day, or you've, I don't know, sort of doubting where you've come from. And mum is probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm here. Yeah,
it's not often that I hit very low points. Like, I can count on my hand the number of times I've really hit rock bottom. And when I say rock bottom, I mean like real bad. Yeah, like I said, big advocate for mental health for a reason. But despite everything that happens, the first person that I think of has always been and will probably always be my mum. It's phenomenal, really. We have our differences. No one can annoy me faster or get on my nerves faster than my mum. It is astounding how quickly she can just sort of go on this side track and get stuck on this one track mind of thinking. I'll be like, oh my God, mum, please, you're killing me. Stop talking. And it's even worse because she lives in Malaysia with her partner. And so we call via WhatsApp because she barely knows how to use anything else on her brand new iPhone. And then, there's a delay. So because there's a slight delay time in the talking, she'll just talk over me and keep talking. And I'm just like, stop, please. Oh my God, stop.
It's one of the big reasons why I would never do an online podcast, I don't think.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
It would be so awkward.
Yeah, but I'm like, mum, she sometimes she really grinds my gears, but I would walk through fire. I would take a bullet without hesitation for my mum. And she knows that. That's just without question, really. Yeah.
What's it like navigating a really powerful relationship with your mum, and what are the sort of conversations or tips that you might have to people who, might not necessarily have such a beautiful relationship with someone so close and your birth giver, really, or whether it's a dad or someone in their family that has that parental figure?
I think if you don't have that privilege, so even coming from a broken home, like I still had that support. I'm very blessed that way, and obviously not everyone's going to have that. I know I've got good friends who have never really had a nice fostered relationship with either parent, even if they came from a complete home. I think that your support, at the end of the day, family is what you make it to be, and blood is your choice, right? Ultimately, your blood relationship to someone doesn't actually matter at the end of the day. What matters is the shared experiences and the bond between the two of you that's formed after those experiences, and where you go forward with those and with each other. Mum and I went through some pretty traumatic times together. We've been through emotional hell, but together, and that's what bonded us. And obviously there's such a benefit being the fact that she is my mum, and that's a big component of why we went through it all together. But if you find someone, if you don't have that benefit, if you don't have that that fortune, but you find someone who provides you that shelter and that safety, and you for them as well, that can blossom into being that for you. But it is, not everyone finds it straight away. So it's just a matter of when, and hopefully,
Yeah, and it's a matter of probably working for it as well.
Yeah,
I don't think, and from what it sounds like, it hasn't been something that's just like fallen into your lap because all of a sudden your parents have split. You know? It's something that you've worked towards.
Yeah,
amazing. I love that so much. Oh my gosh, I don't know where to go from here.
No, you're good.
Awesome. So you've graduated.
Yep.
Done the whole undergrad and then postgrad.
Yeah, so undergrad biomed, post 3 years undergrad biomed, 4 years postgrad med, 7th year working. I'm still actually currently studying at the moment because I'm doing a master's at the same time, and that's just par for the course for a lot of us when we want to, make it further in the field, or get onto a training program. You just have to, and we still do training courses here and there, and that's expensive and time consuming. I was
going to point out the time consuming. I feel like a lot of the doctors and my partner as well, she's going into this medical field. So
which is huge.
Yeah. It's just the amount of study and time that you spend investing into this job. Mm-hmm. What is that like? And what are the sort of inside thoughts that you've sort of had with yourself? Like, is this worth it? Am I going to make it? Those sorts of things.
I question myself, is it worth it, more often than I'd like to admit. But like I said, I still find myself marveling at how much I love my job and how much of a privilege it is, even on the worst days. Like I said, glorified mechanic, but God, it's so much fun. And the things I get to do and the things I get to fix, and the experiences that I've had based off the hospitals that I've worked in, have been unparalleled, purely because in those settings, especially in regional hospitals, we get a lot of opportunity as trainees to do things ourselves rather than just being an assistant. And that's those sink or swim moments. And thankfully, I've sort of kept my head above water and sort of bobbed along. And it is hard to accept sometimes that, for a long period of time, you'll always question, am I good enough? You'll always have self-esteem problems, but at the end of the day, you're still in it. So you've achieved a significant amount. These are words that I'll tell people when they're doubting themselves, and still words I find very hard to swallow myself. I'm very good at giving people advice that I should take myself. But it is hard to find, to balance time. And you just, I don't know, one of my bosses that I worked with in Mildura, he said a very important thing that's stuck with me for the last sort of 5 years. You have to decide whether you're going to live to work or work to live. And there's a big difference between the two and what they mean. Because if you're living to work, that means you live, sleep, eat, breathe, whatever it is that you're doing. And for some people, that is exactly what they are programmed to do, and that is their mentality. And, far out. Like, I respect that because that's hard. And that for them, that's easy because that's what they do. But for me, I know ultimately I'm working to live. You know, my long-term goals are I want to be able to support a family. I want to be able to provide for a lifestyle for kids, the upbringing that I never knew myself. And that in itself, I think, is life's ultimate privilege. Not being a doctor, not being whatever it is, the creme de la creme of your profession. For me personally, my top echelon of success is having the privilege of being a dad and a husband and those long-term things. That's my goal. So I'll work hard and achieve things in order to be able to provide that life for my family and for myself, in the long run.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And that's when you've made it?
That's when I'll feel I'll have made. Like, obviously when I get into the training program, finally, hopefully one day, far out, man, that'll be a massive achievement. That it's so hard to get in, and I'm always in awe of the guys who are my senior trainees, and I try to emulate what they do. It is hard, and they command a lot of respect for that reason. That will be one big achievement, but then I think life's biggest achievement for me will be obviously that family.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Just stumped me, man. It's amazing. What does a day in the life look like for you?
Oh, okay. It kind of depends. So, but on average, wake up around about 5:30. Like, I'm not like, I know, you ever seen those like get ready with me in the morning videos of like those really entrepreneurial people, or those med students who are like big on TikTok or Instagram?
Med students are huge on TikTok.
Yeah, my life is nothing like that, dude. Like, they're like, at 5 o'clock I wake up, I do some meditation, I do some study, then I have my breakfast. This is my breakfast this morning. It's a healthy granola. I'm like, dude, what? Like, I wish. It's so aesthetic. It's the most aesthetic thing I've ever seen. And I'm just like, oh, yeah. So I kind of open my eyes and try to figure out where in time and space that I am. I've slept 4 hours. My breath smells like absolute ass. Sorry. And then, I'll get up, brush my teeth. I'll make a coffee. I think I use an AeroPress. So I make AeroPress coffee. I think that's my one little luxury that I give myself in the morning.
An AeroPress?
Yeah. It's like a modern French press, and you make single origin, filter, blah, 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 all that fancy coffee snobby stuff that people in Melbourne love. And I'm a Melbourne coffee snob.
You are. I remember. What was the name of the cafe that you...
Oh, so Gesher Coffee. Real good, but real pricey coffee. Like, oh man, like not something that I have often, but I've had it like 3 times and still question my financial decisions doing that. But, I'll make a coffee in the morning. I actually started eating breakfast properly for the last 3.5, 4 months. But before that, for about a decade, I never ate breakfast.
Matt will be happy about that.
Yeah, I do it because Matt's like, you got to eat 200 grams of protein a day. I'm like, 200 grams? God damn. So I'll wake up, make my coffee, and then I'll have my pre-packed breakfast. So I'll bring them to work. Typically get into work around about sort of 6:30-ish, 6:45. And I say I wake up at 5:30, but let's be honest, I just sort of laze in bed and sort of contemplate life and all its decisions. And then when I'm at work, I'll either be on call, so taking new referrals, I'll be in clinic, or I'll be operating. And that can be for the whole day. Sometimes my lists or my clinics will finish on time. So we're meant to finish at 5:30. On average, I'll get out at the earliest, maybe 6:30. And the latest, sometimes I'm there till 1:30, 2 o'clock. This week, I was on call for Tuesday and Thursday. On Tuesday, I left at midnight, and on Thursday, I left at 1:30. We were operating pretty late on Thursday. And that's like my day in the life.
How do you fit anything else in?
Well, on the days that you get out, so on the days that I'm not on call, even if I get out, like on average, like I said, I'll maybe get out around about 7:30, which is pretty good. So I'll get home, get changed, go to the gym, maybe for about an hour and a half or so, 2 hours if it's a big day. Get home, have a late dinner, try and do some study, try and do some reading at the same time, read up on the cases for the next day if I have any. If I'm on call, sometimes I'll be on call and I won't have to stay late. So I'll still manage to get stuff done. You just have to be opportunistic. I think it's really hard to have that like ideal regimented life that I'd love to have because it will give me order in all the chaos. But sometimes you just can't achieve that. So you just have to be really opportunistic with your time and allocate it accordingly. And so, yeah, like I still manage to get most things done, but on average I'll sleep maybe 5-6 hours a night.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the regimented lifestyle. I'm a big advocate for that, and I really enjoy the structure and planning in my life because I think that, for me personally, that's like where I find the most productivity. But then
absolutely,
there's also that route where it's like, well, you don't have a single second to yourself really, and it's like you have to jam everything into that.
Yeah.
What were the sort of, what are some tips and those sorts of things that you have for people who are approaching this medical field or something that's that onerous and that busy?
Yeah. Look, I think my brand of dealing with it is obviously not going to be for everyone. I know people who still manage to keep a pretty strict timeline and time frame, and I got a lot of respect for them because they're so organized and they get so much done, and it's incredible. And those are the people that get onto a training program really fast, and you know they're fully fledged surgeons by the time they're 30, 31 years old, and that's like, that blows my mind. Like a guy I worked with at the trauma hospital, he's on track to do that, and he's got a kid and a missus, and it's wild. But he's brilliant. And, you know, to make it worse, he's such a nice guy. But you can't hate him for it. He's such a top guy. And you're like, God, just have one thing wrong with you. That'd be nice. I think that you have to, you will make mistakes and you will learn from them. And you will find that at some point in time, your life will have escaped you completely and you'll be way behind and you'll be like, where did all my hobbies go? Where did all my time go? And who am I now? The important thing though is, even if that is the case, make sure that you ground yourself, whether that is with your hobbies or that is with your family and friends, because they will keep you down to earth, number one, no matter all your accolades and achievements. But number two, they will be your home base of safety. They will remind you that life, once you step out of the hospital, there is life that you have to live, and you can still do all of the things that you want to very easily, but you have to learn how to allocate your time. In terms of structure, and those people who benefit from regimented things where this time I can do this time I can do that, etc., I would say morning is the best. Even if you're not an early morning person, at least you still have the opportunity to say, I start work at 8, so I can give myself 2 hours to achieve a certain number of things that I want to do that are irrelevant to working in the hospital. And if you can do that, that actually gives you ownership of that time, because once you go into the hospital, that time is no longer yours. You are on the clock for your job and you have to focus on your job. And it's really hard to claim back time when you get home because you'll be exhausted. And sometimes your mind won't be where those regimented tasks could lie. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Love those tips. And yeah, it's probably just like you have to make do at that point. It's interesting you bring up the topic of like, pushing everything early in the morning. There's like lots of research about how your brain's probably a lot better functioning in the morning than it is at night. There's also all this research about how beneficial sleep is for you. What is your opinion on that?
Well, my sleep, so in Alpha we call it sleep hygiene. So that's that good sleep hygiene is things like trying to get your 8 hours. You want to achieve that REM sleep or the rapid eye movement sleep, because that's the deep state sleep that you have that recovery process being the most beneficial. 8 hours is really quite important. Pot calling the kettle black. What a hypocrite. But I think for me personally, when I get my weekends, or if I have the opportunity to sleep early, you can bet I'll take it as often as I can, and it doesn't come often, mind you. It is really hard, especially if you go into a specialty that demands your time and efforts outside of the office, because you have to study in order to take the next step. And I think that's a sacrifice you have to accept, right? Like, we know that. And at the end of the day, the person who's chosen to go into that field is us. So I've made these choices and I'm okay with it. I love my job and I know where I'm going, and I'm really happy to go there. But when I get the opportunity, I will look after myself with my sleep. I'll sleep in on my weekends. Like, today woke up. A sleep in is now like 7:30, which is...
No way.
Yeah, dude, like sleep in is 7:30, like for me. If I wake up at 8 o'clock, I feel a little bit guilty because I'm like, oh man, I've wasted my morning. That's it. And I'll look at the clock, I'll think, crap, like I should have done more. But one thing I think, in terms of being that early morning person, one thing that I've been doing for the last... almost a year now, and I have dropped off as of late, but I'm back on it now. Morning cold showers.
Same, I'm on that bandwagon at the moment.
Nothing wakes me up better than morning cold showers and I try to do some breathing exercises when I'm in there, and I can sit in the cold shower, even in dead winter, and this is like in Gippsland, it would get down to like 0 - 1 degree sometimes, and so the water's real cold. But even then, because I'd gotten so used to it, I can sit in there for about 4 or 5 minutes and do some breathing, and I find myself invigorated for the day and ready, even if I've only had 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Obviously, not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not saying you have to do it, but geez, if you get on it, it's not bad.
Seriously, there's so much content coming out on like cold showers and how good and important they are for like functioning in the morning. I've hopped on the bandwagon recently. I used to do them, but yet to approach the cold winters because I just stopped after then. It was just
it's hard, right?
Oh, it was rough. But yet to approach that, so we'll send an update after it. But I can't encourage you enough to take a cold shower if you're listening. Just super important, and you feel amazing after. I've done mouth taping. I don't know if you're into that, but like yeah, it sounds a bit weird.
No, it's like I've seen a few podcasts they talk about it and stuff, and I understand where they're coming from because it's the idea is that you tape your mouth shut when you sleep, so you breathe through your nose. Have you found that it benefits?
I have. I was I had huge sleep apnea.
Oh yeah,
I would wake up so unrefreshed from sleeps and would depend on coffee, and then obviously the coffee and the caffeine would last throughout and then wane into my sleep as well. Just a vicious cycle really, because you'd have caffeine in your system, and then obviously your body can't get to sleep properly and into that deep sleep because it's still trying to digest and process that caffeine, and then you wake up unrefreshed and groggy, and then it's just
a vicious cycle.
It's just a huge just vicious cycle. And I was like, what is happening? Got all this sleep tests done and sleep studies. Shout out ResMed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they hooked me up with a free one, which was really nice. Discovered that, wasn't breathing in enough oxygen, which is what helps you achieve that deep sleep. I'm not much of a medical genius here, so I feel a bit intimidated.
It's all right, man. If it makes you feel any better, all I do is fix bones. So like,
we're both unqualified.
The rest of the stuff I've just kind of put to the back of the mind, and then when I need an opinion on like the smart doctor stuff, I'm like, can we just talk to the medical, like the general medical people? Because like I'm Bob the Builder. I don't know anything else. Like, help, please.
I love that so much.
My interns think I'm real dumb sometimes. Like, I don't know.
Oh, no. I'm sure you're just downplaying yourself. But just found huge benefits, to be honest. And
nice.
The podcasts that you listen to about breathing through your nose in your sleep, like, I don't know how legit they are, but it's the new craze at the moment, and seriously, hop on.
I reckon with any of these, like you might call them crazes, you might call them fads, whatever it is. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be subjective, and it's got to be whatever you find benefits you the most. Because what might work for you may do absolute nothing for me, right? And that is what it is. So that's why even with medication, sometimes people talk about the natural test boosters. That's been another thing recently. People talking about what is it, Tonkat Ali and ashwagandha and all that stuff.
I keep saying
ashwagandha. That. Yeah, man. It's huge. Everyone talks about it. And I will say medical literature, not a whole lot in terms of legitimate, proper studies. However, there are some studies on Tonkat Ali that say testosterone levels boost, yada yada yada. But, there are some people who take it and they'll be like, okay, just made my poop feel weird, but sure.
Well, it was like turkesterone. Like,
oh, yeah, that was huge. Yeah, man.
It's sort of like phased out. I don't see anyone really talking about turkesterone and those sorts of things. So.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think like I said, there's going to be some placebo effect for a lot of them. And that's the beauty of a placebo effect. Like, you take this tablet, oh my God, my life is so much better. Yeah. But let's be honest, I think the most important things are look after your nutrition, look after your sleep, look after your mental health, benefits.
100%.
That's it. Doesn't matter.
They're tenfold compared to any of these other things. But
exactly.
It's like, find out what works for you.
Yeah, unless you have an actual medical condition, then see your medical specialist, please.
This is true, yes.
Yeah, do that.
Talk to us about Koda. Let's get into it.
Koda, all right.
Very exciting. I don't know when this podcast will be out, but I feel like when it's out, Koda will be up and running.
Hopefully. Hopefully the drop is done and I'm just not a lazy prick about it anymore. So Koda, what is Koda? It's a sports apparel brand that I'm trying to start, or I've technically started. And at the moment, the only thing that I'm selling is just shorts. So gym shorts, or, as I describe them, hot boy summer shorts. But it was inspired a bit by, amazing brands like Anaka Power, Get Better Today. Like, those guys are like, titans in the field. Like, because they realize that gym is not just like, it's not just an activity that you do. It's now become a real culture. And when I say that, I mean, there's been this massive shift of combining your streetwear with your gym wear. So it's functional, but you also look good. Because when you go to the gym, you're going there to look good and you want to feel good as well. And there's so much evidence that shows that if you look after your physical health, your mental health reaps the rewards as well. And so if you're going to go to the gym and you're going to sweat it out, why not look dope doing it, right? So that's where brands like Anaka Power took off, and GBT, run by Russ Swole, who's just like this powerhouse. Oh my God. He's so strong. I've followed him for years. Like I've seen him from when he first started, and I'm just like, who this guy? Like, far out. It's crazy. But he's powerlifting champion and also started this brand, GBT, and it's really taken off. So Koda started because I like to wear short shorts when I go to the gym. Just because it's comfy pop the quads, if you've got the quads, show the quads, but also just because it's comfortable, right? For me, it's comfy, but if you want to wear Anaka shorts, if you want to wear GBT shorts, they're so expensive because it's like, what, 50, 60 USD a pair for the Anaka shorts. Shipping is more expensive than the shorts sometimes.
Well, we're surrounded by a body of water, so
exactly.
It makes sense.
No one wants to ship stuff to Australia. Far out, you're your own little island and piece of crap, right? No one wants to do that. So like, I thought, how hard could it be to do it ourselves? Like, yes, there's brands in Australia that are doing, Gymshark sells to Australia all the time. They've got stock here. There's amazing Australian brands that are killing it, like LSKD, Elite 11, that they dominate their niches and they dominate their industries. I'm not targeting them. My target is, like, I'm a power lifter, right? I am, as Matt would say, the filthiest of casuals when it comes to the sport. And maybe his most disappointing client. I don't know, but, we'll see. But
Matt loves us all.
He does. We love you, Matt.
We love you, Matt.
But, like, I thought, why not just do it myself? Like, I don't really, like, my job, I'll always be financially comfortable. I don't really care about making a lot of money. If anything, I just want whatever money comes into the company to just go back into the company and have it self-sustaining and self-running. But why not have a design and a material, I'm sure, that look good, feel good, functional, and if you wear them, you're like, this is the best shorts that I've ever worn, and I can not only wear them to the gym, but I want to wear them all the time, and I didn't have to not eat meat for a week in order to be able to buy them because I had to pay for the shorts and shipping. So I reached out to a bunch of factories and then narrowed it down to 3, got a bunch of trials, did a couple of trial phases, and thankfully a lot of the Training Day boys, shout out Training Day, trialed them for me, tried the samples, gave some feedback, and I actually have all the stock. So when the launch happens, it won't be one of those things where you put in the order and then you wait a bazillion days for the stock to come in because you do the order. I have it all. I'm just that lazy. But like...
Where are you storing all of this?
My house. Don't go to my house. But like, and so far the feeds, like, I've given a few pairs away to, friends, family, people who've asked for them, and you've got a pair.
I do. They're amazing. Just to butt in, I think, like, I work at Lululemon, so the shorts there.
Oh yeah, they're phenomenal, right?
very underrated. Shout out Lululemon, but also shout out Koda. Like, I don't think Lululemon gives the opportunity for like mesh or those sorts of powerlifting shorts. I find myself hemming a lot of their shorts because they just come in like a long, I don't know, more appropriate sort of like length or conservative.
So like because I know, like, I did a bit of, independent research myself. So like, I have a couple of Anarcha Power shorts. I've gone into shops like Lululemon. I've seen the Elite 11 stuff, and then you check out Nike, Adidas and stuff, right? And the classic cut will be, 7-inch length inseam. And then for the slightly more risque, you've got the 5-inch, which is, let's face it, that's the perfect inseam length for these shorts. And that's what the Koda shorts are. We do it right. And then for the runners, they go for 3-inch. But the material, I think, is the most important thing, because, you've got all that dry fit stuff, or the really thin, flimsy, really elastic and quite comfortable, but it does not really often complement or sit well. And it can ride, it can tent, it can, tether, it can, roll up, and it's not really great. So the reason why people love Anarcha and GBT is because they've got the basketball mesh. Mine, Koda is not necessarily, like, it's not pure basketball mesh, but it's a mesh type material. So the inner layer is really soft and stretchy, and the outside is like a slightly more thicker variant of it. So it's a double layer with, pockets on the inside. So you never get that weird pocket hang that you get from a lot of those Nike and Adidas things. And I personally think, and this is just me being biased, obviously, but I think they're the most comfortable pair of shorts I have, and I love them. I wear them all the time. I'm wearing them right now because, that's how much I love them. So
no, they're perfect. I have the green pair, and I wanted to grab a black pair from you because I find myself just gravitating towards it. Totally not biased. No, legit. Like, I work at a athleisure athletic retailing company. So I can definitely attest to like the quality of the shorts.
That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, it's amazing like where you want to take it as well. It's not like a profitable thing. It's just, let's just provide something for the people that's affordable, and we can get people looking good in them, and just like have it self-sustainable. Yeah,
like, I think that, obviously any brand that sells these shorts, they're making profit. You're always going to make a profit. And like I said, this company, the brand itself will make profit. That doesn't bother me. I don't care about making some crazy margin from what I pay for the unit. But, we have to take into consideration things like shipping itself of the products when they're all made is expensive. And then you have to take into consideration paying for the domain, paying for the website, all that stuff. But, and then even just shipping it out when it's bought, and, you've got all the extra add-on costs. But like I said, any profit that is made, for me personally, I just want to put it back in so that the next drop will be even better, and we have more, and people will love it more, because that's what it's about. And I
love that. Amazing. Like, it's hard not to get sucked into the capitalist scheme that we're living in.
Like, I'm I see why, and I benefit from capitalism all the time. But I think we would be lying to ourselves if we said that we didn't benefit from it. But I think, in my opinion, the most important thing is what you do with the benefits that make a difference. So, if you have the opportunity to give to charity or do something charitable, do it. It doesn't have to be anything flashy or fancy. Just be nice and don't be a jerk.
That's it. Mark, thank you for your time. Is there anything that you'd like to end on or put out there?
Yeah, just be kind to everyone, and just as importantly, be kind to yourself. I think that's something that we all forget, but that'll be my, I guess, final take-home message for everyone if they want one. And thanks for having me on, mate. I've never been on a podcast before. I was still taken aback when you asked me, because I was like, I'm pretty average kind of dude. So
I've loved dissecting your story, and sorry to the listeners if I was jumping back and forth.
Sorry. I'm very scatterbrained. So like my head just goes.
But that's my job as a host to direct the flow of the conversation. But I just think, you're such an amazing person, and we've only met less than a handful of times, which is awesome. And I love seeing like what you're doing and how you're taking care of yourself, like whether it's through the gym or bettering yourself through helping other people and starting this clothing brand because you saw like a gap in the market, or maybe just wanted to provide for more people at an affordable rate. Like, I love what you're doing, and I love the message that you put out. And shout out to your mum again. Like, she's raised an absolute gem, and yeah, like just speaking to you has given me a lot of happiness. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Well, look, I think that what you're doing with this podcast is pretty special in and of itself. Like, it takes guts to put yourself out there, number one, and you know, I think that the fact that you actually are willing to have these conversations with people like myself, but I'm sure you've had also like, I've seen your podcast, I've listened to it, man. You've had some incredible people, and I thought, man, this is going to be something pretty special, and so I'm just glad to be along for the ride.
I appreciate it so much. Yeah, it's just episode by episode.
That's it.
Be sure to follow at Life with Lamb podcast on Instagram, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.